Good morning. Everybody's bright-eyed and shiny this morning. Got coffee? Well, I want to introduce Dorsey Levens, and he is an ex-football player for the Green Bay Packers. I'm sure you all remember him from that. And he also is a movie star, and he can tell you more. He really is. He's been in. He can tell you the movies that he's been in. And he is going to teach all of us how to think differently and have a more positive life. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't say a movie star, but I'm working on it. All right. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Good morning. So who wasn't here yesterday? You guys weren't here, all right? Okay. It's all good. All right, so briefly, this program called the BioCode system, which is short for biological codes, was developed by Dr. Jill Kahn in Atlanta. And what it is there are 5 tools to help you out whenever you're stressed out. In those moments when you're stressed, and we talked about you newcomers, I don't know what your stress levels are, but most everybody stresses, right? So today I'm going to take you through these 5 steps on a lighter level, just to give you the gist of kind of what we do. Yesterday I gave you 3 of the 5, the people who were here. So you guys who weren't here, I'll explain to you what it is. Actually, you know what? There's in our brochure, for you newcomers, I just want to read the summary. I think this will just be easier. All right, BioCoding, the ability to consciously choose empowered behaviors regardless of the difficulty of the situation. The BioCode system is a new way of thinking and acting that empowers people to build the skills to be able to enjoy life while still navigating day-to-day challenges. This innovative leadership training provides simple yet powerful exercises and disciplines to develop stronger, more confident, and resilient people. With these highly specific behaviors done at precise times, like when you're stressed out, participants make behavior changes that last. Here's how it works. Just like a well-conditioned athlete that needs personal strength, agility, and endurance to perform successfully under pressure, the same is true for people. Being empowered to navigate with freedom through difficult situations is the strongest way to lead, live, and give back to the others. The daily inner workout, problems and people don't go away. As daily stress pushes against you, the BioCode system teaches us how to use your demanding environment to develop the muscle to take the day on. So part of this is what we do is now when we have problems or issues and we feel stressed out, we look at it differently. So now we don't look at it as a problem anymore. We look at it as an opportunity for growth. Most of us have the same problems over and over again because we haven't figured out how to deal with those certain problems. Most of us have reoccurring themes that keep popping up, right? So we're going to work on those, and we call those your weaker behavioral muscles, and we're here to strengthen them. Just like a regular muscle, a bicep or a quad, if those muscles are weak and you need to strengthen them, you have to work them out. We talked about this yesterday. So we're going to find out where you're weak and where you need to get stronger, and thus is going to help you perform at your highest level. And like I was talking to Lori last night, most of you are pretty successful already, right? And the good news is you've been winging how to deal with your stress, right? You deal with it the best way you know how. So imagine how much more successful you can be if you can clear out the weeds, so to speak, think clearly every day, and make decisions when you're not irritable or upset or angry, right? Because that's what happens. We get upset, and when we're upset, we don't think clearly, so we can't make decisions that help us out, right? So we got these 5 tools. You got the little cards? All right. So the first one, there's a little yellow code. So each BioCode is color-coded. Yellow is for the sun because there's only one sun. and there's only one person inside of it. This is the insider code, also known as the goal is self-empowerment. The bullet point here is focus on your conduct regardless of right or wrong. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I'm not going to say that again, just for you new people. I'm just going to act like you guys, that none of you guys were here, and we're going to start all over again. How about that? All right, so focus on your conduct regardless of right or wrong. This can be difficult in situations, especially when you feel like you're right. But like I said before, this is a new way of thinking, so we're going to kind of rewire our brain, right? And it's going to take some time because whatever way you think, you've been thinking this way for a long time, probably most of your lives, right? So in order to change that, it's not going to change after I leave the stage today. You have to work on it. You have to keep working on it. I still work on it daily. I call them BioCoding moments. So when you're stressed out, or we like to call it being emotionally hijacked, right? When you're having a good day and then something happens and then you just kind of lose your shit. Right? That's how it happens, right? We call it being emotionally hijacked. So how can we not be emotionally hijacked? Right? BioCode 1, in order for this to work, the only person that has to change is you, because you're incapable of changing anyone other than yourself or controlling anyone other than yourself. Right? And like, so oftentimes we try to change other people and we can't even change ourselves. Right? So if you can't change yourself, how are you going to change anybody else? And then how would you feel if somebody tried to change you? Right? You'd be like, leave me alone. I'm good. Thanks you very much. All right, so always focus on your conduct only, regardless of the behaviors of other people. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our power back. Right? We're not going to give our power away to outside circumstances. We're not going to have a bad day because somebody says something to piss us off, or your husband didn't do something that you wanted him to do, or your wife, didn't run the errand that you wanted her to run, or the weather is bad, or the Packers lost. Right? That's the big one around here, right? It'll ruin your whole week. Definitely Sunday, right? We learn to let go of stuff like that because we can't control it. Right? You really can't control it. I know they're your favorite team, and trust me, those guys want to win. I never stepped on the field and didn't want to win. Unfortunately, those guys on the other side of the ball get paid too. And they're pretty good. So you don't always win, right? So focus on your conduct only, regardless of who's right or wrong. This right or wrong thing too, right or wrong is just a matter of perspective, right? So just let it go. We argue so many times about who's right or wrong, and at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter. The goal here in this program is inner peace, or peace of mind. How do you attain that? How do you get peace of mind? It doesn't come from outside of you. It comes from within. But if you let other people or other things emotionally hijack you, you can't keep your cool. Right? So let's let go of right or wrong. Like I said, it's a new way of thinking. It's going to take a little while to sink in because we like to be right, don't we? I'm still waiting on my prize in the mail for being right. Still hasn't come. Anybody got theirs yet? No? Shit. So we let go of that. That's probably the hardest thing too. That was one of my challenges because we like to be right. And like I said before, it's just a matter of how you look at it. It's what's right for me may not be right for you, and vice versa, right? And then good or bad is subjective. We talked about yesterday in the natural world, in the wild, when the hawk or the eagle grabs the rabbit, my daughter was like, "Oh, that poor cute little bunny rabbit." I was like, "Yeah, it's a bad day for him." But on the flip side of it, that bird has to eat. So who is good or bad is just a matter of who you're rooting for. It's just a matter of perspective. So we try to let that go. All right. So BioCode 1, keep the conduct on yourself only, regardless of who's right or wrong. BioCode 2, so it's red because red represents inflammation. Like if you have maybe a bruise on your shoulder, right? If I were to touch that bruise, you would react like, ow, that hurts. But if I touch the other side where there is no bruise, you wouldn't react, right? So basically what we're going to find out is where our trigger points are, where our pain points are, what sets us off, what gets us upset, all right? So the dumbbell is a workout code because, like I said earlier, we're working on our behavioral muscles, our inner muscles, not our outer muscles. But it takes repetition, right? If you've ever been to the gym before, you just can't do one curl and then go look in the mirror and be like, it takes some time. You can go to the gym right now and spend 4 hours, and I promise you tomorrow you won't notice a difference. You're gonna be sore as hell, but you won't see a difference. So what I always say is little by little, a little becomes a lot. So you have to practice daily, and you get stronger daily, just like you would in the gym. If you're on a treadmill working out, like I said, you won't see the results immediately, but if you do it consistently, you're going to see results because that's just how it works. It's the same thing here. If you practice the biocodes consistently, you don't stress as much because you've rewired your brain to see things differently. Stop the weaker story. So we have a chart that we use. And when you're feeling a weaker emotion, you practice the opposite emotion. So the weaker words are fear, doubt, overwhelmed, judgment, guilt, worry, insecurity, frustration, and expectation. In those moments when you feel uneasy, uncomfortable, stressed out, you're telling yourself a story. I don't like this because X, Y, Z. All right, we're going to stop that story in your head. If you guys do the longer program, in each biocode there are 3 steps. And the first step is always awareness. So as you start, the first thing you have to do is be aware of how stressed out you are. Most of us have functioned through this stress so long, we don't even realize that it sucks. I didn't know I was stressed as much as I was until I stopped stressing. There was a weight on my shoulders that I didn't know was there because I functioned just like you, very successful. I functioned through my stress. And I didn't have any tools to help me get through it. Like I said, we just wing it, right? We were always taught growing up what to think, but not how to think. This whole program, I call it the Me, Myself, and I program. Like I said earlier, for this to work, the only person that has to change is you. That's it. The only person that has to change is you. So if you focus on yourself and make yourself better, everything else around you changes as well. All right, so in moments where you're feeling fearful, there are a few words that are the opposite of fear. We like to use safety. Or Miss Lori oftentimes feels overwhelmed, right? As many of you may. The workload at your campsite may be kind of heavy, especially in the summertime. Practice calm, practice calm. There are a couple that we talked about yesterday, and I'll touch on those in a second, but my flight coming in a couple of nights ago was late, and it was like, it was some crazy shit, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, so here's what happened, and if anybody's ever experienced this before, let me know. We were leaving, I flew through Chicago, and they said that the visibility here was low. They needed 3 miles of visibility. They only had 2.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly up there and see if we can land. And if we can't, we're going to turn around and come back to Chicago. I was like, what the hell kind of plan is that? Don't y'all have like instruments and stuff to tell you whether or not? Can't you call up there ahead of time and go, hey, what's it looking like? For us to just go flying around in the air just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Right, so I was frustrated. And I said, I'm almost 4 years in and I still biocode almost every day. Right, but in those moments, I had to practice patience, right? The opposite of frustration is patience. Practice patience, practice patience. Why? I can't control what's going on. I just can't. I'm not flying a plane. I don't work for American Airlines. All I can do is sit and wait. Right? So with that, what I was going to say earlier is that all this happens between those two voices in your head. Somebody said, what about the other 10 yesterday? I can't help those. I can't help that guy. Right? You have to have that conversation with those two voices in your head. I had one yesterday when I went to McDonald's. I told you guys about it. One voice said, this is not even real food. What are you doing here? The other voice said, you're hungry and it's right across the street from the hotel. You can grab it and go back and get ready for your speech. Yeah, the other guy won. Right, but what happens when those two voices aren't on the same page? You know what happens? You feel guilty. Right? You feel guilty. Guilt will kill you. Guilt is stress. So when I say you get those two voices on the same page, when that other voice goes, you know what? McDonald's is convenient, but you could probably go somewhere else and eat something just a little bit healthier. It may take a little bit more time. And then I do that, and then I feel good about myself, right? As opposed to eating it and then going, fuck, why did I eat that? It happens all the time, right? And it's not just food, it can be anything. Innocence. Practice innocence. Yeah, practice innocence. And a lot of times, the guilt we feel, we have to learn to let that go because the guilt really is you being mad at yourself. That one voice in your head being mad at the other voice in your head. That's what guilt is. Those two voices have to be on the same page in order for you to function at your highest level. Yeah. So the two big ones for me were always judgment. The opposite of judgment is acceptance. A lot of times we judge things and it has no effect in us moving forward in life or for our peace of mind. You guys can judge the weather. You can judge the coaching staff at the Packers. You can judge the loud people in cabins 42. You know, we all do it. We all judge. But first of all, it lowers your vibrational energy, right? And everything is energy. Everything is energy. It lowers your vibrational energy when you judge other people. And usually when you judge other people, it says more about you than the person you're judging. And once again, you're not going to change that person. You're not going to fix that person. So what's the point? Right? Just get those voices on the same page. The other one that was big for me, is expectation. We expect things from people. Our husbands, our wives, our kids, our other family members, co-workers. We expect things, right? And when we don't get the things that we expect, we're upset. So as opposed to expectation, the opposite of expectation is observation. Just observe. Right, a lot of times when we deal with people, we know they're a little off. Right? We know. But then when we talk to them, we expect them to be normal. And they've shown us time and time again that they're not normal. But we expect them, and then we get upset when they act the same crazy-ass way they always act. When you've observed that this is the way this person is. So when you just go, okay, well, this is how they are. This is how I interact with this person. And now you're not thrown off kilter because they're not acting the way you think they should act. right? And that's the big thing for me was, one of the big things for me was, and maybe it is for you, we think we know how other people should act, right? Like I said, in Atlanta, for me, the traffic is always a big deal. Atlanta traffic is awful, right? But going back to expectation and observation, I've lived there for 20 years. I've observed that between the hours of 3 and 6 p.m., traffic is shitty. It doesn't move. People cut you off. They don't use blinkers. People are constantly on their horn. Having observed that for 20 years, why would I expect it to be different and get upset when it's not different, when it's been like that for 20 years? I was teaching a friend's mom BioCoding, and she goes, my husband drives me crazy. They live in New York City, and he lets people cut in front of him all the time. All the time. She's like, and it just drives me crazy, like he has no place to go. Right? Legit argument, right? That would piss me off too. Trying to get somewhere, and you keep letting people get in front of you. Well, like, let's go, let's move it, right? So I asked her a question. So how long has he been doing this? She said 30 years. And today is going to be the day that changes, right? That's what you think. This is the day that's going to change. So she's upset. She's emotionally hijacked. She's in the car. Her blood pressure is going up. The anxieties. And this has been going on for 30 years. Why are you doing this to yourself? You know exactly what's going to happen. But, like I said, if the goal is inner peace or peace of mind, it has to come from within. It's not going to come from somebody else. One of the things that keeps us stuck is that we oftentimes say, my life would be better if Lori did what I asked her to do more often. Or if my husband would act like he still loved me. Or if my business partner would actually do some work, my life would be better. Right? That's what this program is about. We let go of the what ifs. You take your power back. There's nobody else who can control you now. All right? Nothing, the weather, none of that. There's no more excuses, basically. We like excuses, and we're really good at it. All of us, me included. And this is, like I said yesterday, this is for real people. This is no magic formula, no hocus pocus, none of that. You have to work at it in order to de-stress. You have to work at it. Or you can just continue to be stressed and not know. But I think a lot of times this resonates with people because it's all based on facts. And it's all based on truth. Right? Truth of the matter is, your husband's been letting people cut in front of him for 30 years. You don't have to get mad at that because you know what? If you don't like it that much, don't ride with him. Right? It's not rocket science. You don't have to be an angel. You don't have to kiss anybody's ass. This is about you. This is about your life. To you taking control back of your life. And that's a real story. That's true. No, people do change. But it's not your job to change anybody. Except yourself. And good luck with that. No, that's really, good luck with that. Because one of the things we teach in BioCoding is we don't give unsolicited advice. Yeah, how about that? Unless someone asks you for advice, don't give it to them. But oftentimes, if somebody complains to us, we try to fix it. Well, here's what you should do. Well, you should have told them this. Or you should have kicked them in the ass and make sure it didn't come back again. Right? Question.
You say not giving unsolicited advice. Would you say that telling your own what you do is the same thing as unsolicited advice?
Say that again.
Like, someone's like, oh, I, have all this skin issues. And I'm like, I used to have skin issues. And when I don't eat wheat or dairy, my skin is amazing, and like, but that's, would you say that's like giving unsolicited advice, or is that in like an underhanded way, or?
unless someone asks for advice, we generally just say, just don't give it. One, because we don't want you to try to fix anybody but yourself. Two, a lot of times, unsolicited advice sounds like criticism. You know, if I come up to you and go, maybe you should eat more salads. What does that sound like? You know what I'm saying? So we don't do that. We don't need to fix anybody else except ourselves. And it's crazy because we do it so often. When I first started doing it, I just didn't know what to say. Like, people were talking, and our instinct is to go, well, here's what you do. Right? But then you bite your tongue, and it's like, I don't know what to say anymore. I'm just standing here like, okay. Yeah. And when people, listen, and that's what we say, listen supportively without advice. Listen supportively without advice. Most people just want to be heard, right? They want to vent. And if they want your advice, they'll ask you for it. And most of us don't even follow the advice that we asked for. So we're definitely not going to follow the advice that we didn't ask for. Right? It just makes sense, at least to me. All right, so that's BioCode 2. Where's that little card? Yeah, but I need where's my card, though? Thank you. we call Lori Lolo. That's her nickname from the fellas, Lolo. All right. BioCode 3 is the observation code. It's a timing, well, it's an observation technique. It's a timing code, and it's based on self-regulation. And it's gray because gray is neutral, and there's a clock in there because it's a timing code. This is probably the easiest one that we all know, but we get emotionally hijacked and we don't follow through. Never make decisions. Only interact when emotions are stable. Which means, and that's okay though, because when you're angry, when you're upset, or you're like super depressed or sad, nothing good is going to come from a conversation or from an interaction, right? So the only time we problem solve is when you're emotionally stable. And if that means you have to remove yourself from the situation until you calm down, then do so. Right, and that's most of us, and that's most of us. So make sure everybody's calm before. How many times have you guys gotten into an argument with anybody and then had to go back and apologize? I didn't mean to say that because I was angry. All right, so we understand that when emotions are high, there's a rhyme that Dr. Jill made. When emotions run high, words lie. That's what it is. When emotions run high, words lie. So now, in order to avoid, because some of those words we spit out, even though we take them back and we say we're sorry, the damage is done. And you can't undo, you can't take back what you say, no matter how many times you say I'm sorry. So now we get ahead of the game. I'm upset. Redirect without making the other person wrong. Redirect from the conversation without making the other person wrong. So if we're in an argument, I'm not going to go, you're hysterical, you're crazy. I'm not talking to your crazy ass right now. I'm leaving. That would be making you wrong. So if I see your emotions are elevated, I always have emails. Right? Everybody got some emails to follow? Listen, I got to go answer a couple of emails, make a phone call or two, and I'll come back and we'll finish the conversation. Buy yourself some time to calm down without making the other person wrong. What? And then don't get back? No, you can get back. So, that's the observation code, all right? Just don't make decisions when you're upset. BioCode 4. All right, this is outer work when you're dealing with other people. So the first two biocodes deal with you only, your inside job, so to speak. The third one's an observation code. This one, the fourth and fifth biocode deal with other people or stuff outside of you mostly. BioCode 4, we touched on this yesterday too. The talk codes, effortless communication, has a little message sign in there for communication, but it's also green to represent trees. Like I said, we're big like nature people, and trees give off oxygen without asking for anything in return. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to find the hidden good intention behind the weaker words, and then we're going to give it back to the person without asking for anything in return. So we talked about this yesterday with the couple over here, with the communication code. Oftentimes, especially so if you miss BioCode 3 and you decide that you're still going to problem solve while you're angry, you're probably going to say something in a way that can offend somebody, right? So what you're going to do, so you can keep your peace of mind, so you can keep your stress level down, without taking anything personally, if someone says something negative to you or about you or directed at you, without taking it personally, and that's hard, because when people are talking directly to you, it's personal. But that person is having a weak moment. And our goal is to have a proper conversation so we can move forward and do whatever it is we're here to accomplish, to do that. Right? So let's talk about coaching and players. Everybody's here. Everybody's Packer fans. Everybody football fans. So if I talk football, you know what I'm talking about? Except Lori. Lori's the only one. Oftentimes, so let me tell you a game. So I don't know if you guys know, I started off at the University of Notre Dame before I transferred to Georgia Tech. And Lou Holtz was our coach there, Lil Lou Holtz. Great, he had won a national championship there. So we're at a scrimmage one day, and the left guard missed the block, and the nose guard just obliterated the running back, just like, so Holtz was pissed. And I thought he had a Napoleon complex, because he was about that tall. And he was just always like angry, like he had a big man complex, you know. So he goes, line up back on the ball. And he tells the guard to get out. You, get out. So the tackle slides down. And he goes, no, slide your ass back over there. Leave the space open. Just leave it open. Run the play again. This is live. We're full tackle. Obviously the same thing happens. The nose guard smacks the running back in the mouth. Crushes him. And Holtz goes, see? It's the same thing with you or without you. You don't even make a difference. Get out of here. I was like, shit. You couldn't have said that better? You couldn't have found a better way to say that? And I was a 19-year-old kid at the time. I don't know, biocodes weren't even invented. But I know there's a better way to say, I need you to play better than that. To humiliate you in front of your whole teammates, your whole team, that's something that sticks with people for the rest of their lives. I had a guy on my high school team hit me on Facebook. I graduated from high school in 1989. He hit me on Facebook like 2 years ago, and he was like, man, I really thought I'd let you guys, it's like I carried this weight around with me because I thought I'd just let you guys down when we played. High school football. We used to call him the gentle giant. Because he was big, but he wouldn't hit me. He was big and he had big muscles, but he wouldn't hit anybody. And we thought it was funny as high schoolers. Even our coach made the name up. That stuck with him from 1987. And he hit me on Facebook, and he was like, man, and I was like, hey, man, listen. And I explained to him that we were just kids, that we love him. We were all on the same team, and he was just like, oh, my God, man, what a relief. I carried that stuff around with me forever. He's like, every time I saw you on TV, I was like, man, I just let them down. I let everybody down. So that stuff, it carries you. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this whole project, one of the founders, and we come through the leadership development door because one of the founders was in HR for 30 years. And she was like, every CEO in the country needs this. But when I got to BioCode 4, I'm like, no, every coach and every player in the country needs this because coaches don't know how to communicate effectively, and players take it personally when it's directed at them. But if you cannot take it personally and ask yourself, what is this coach really asking me? What does he really want? He wants me to play better. That's all he wants. He wants me to play better. The way he presented it is not going to help you play better. It's going to make you frustrated, maybe doubt yourself. Right? But if you can learn, okay, if I was a coach, honestly, the first meeting of the year, pro or college, I would tell kids, listen, this is a business. I know you guys love playing football, but there's a business side of this. And if you don't win, they're going to fire you. That's how this business works. And all the players would know, yeah, that is how this works, right? Just tell them the truth. I may get upset because I don't want to lose my job, have to move my family again to another city, look for another job. So I may scream at you and I might say some things that I don't mean. But I'm coming from a place, excuse me, I'm coming from a place of wanting to win. And I think players understand that. I mean, they're college students. Some of them are pretty intelligent. True story. Woo. So yeah, and like we talked about yesterday, in relationships, you know, whether the wife is complaining or the husband is complaining, what are they really asking for? You know, we had a couple, she was like, my husband doesn't take the trash out when he's supposed to, and the house just smells like garbage. But when he comes home, how many times did I tell you to take the damn trash out? You smell that? Who wants to smell that? And then his response, shit, I forgot. I don't need you barking in my ear as soon as I come in the door. And then the argument starts, right? And then somebody's on the couch. You know how it works, right? I mean, you know how it works. What if you didn't take it personally and you just heard what she was really asking you? She wants you to take the trash out so the house doesn't stink. Right? So you have to, what we say is put it back out better than it came in. When it comes in, you have to translate it in the nicest way you know how. How would she say this, or how would he say this if he knew how to say it in the nicest way he could? Obviously, she doesn't know how to say it in the nicest way that she can, or he doesn't know. So she's spitting venom. Right? But instead of get off my case, lady, you're right, the house stinks. I'll try to remember to take the trash out on time next time. Now, what is it to argue about? It's over with, right? Right. That's the communication code. The last code is BioCode 5. It's blue. It's a walk code and self-navigation. Rapidly rebound when things don't go according to plan. And it's blue. Obviously, there's a compass in there, and the blue represents the ocean, to navigate the ocean. Dr. Jill gives a great example about redirecting. This is about just we all have plans that don't go the way we want them to go, right? So when they don't go, as opposed to getting stuck, going, oh my God, I can't believe why this didn't work, you move on to the next best thing. There's a book called Who Moved My Cheese? Anybody ever read that book? It's pretty much the same thing, right? When things don't go according to plan, you try something else. Perfect example, Super Bowl, 2 years ago, Falcons and the Patriots. Falcons were up 21-3 at halftime, right? So let me tell you how football works. We don't leave any stone unturned when it comes to preparation for a game. I remember when I got to the NFL, I'm like, this is going to be great, man. We're going to be over here from like 8 until lunchtime. We get to go home, and no. I'm like, how much football can we do? Well, yeah, 7:45 to 5 o'clock p.m. So we cover 1st and 10, 2nd and short, 2nd and long, 3rd and short, 3rd and forever, 4th and 1, goal line. We cover every scenario there is. So before a Super Bowl, you have 2 weeks to prepare. So you do it twice, and it's drilled into your brain, the game plan. The Patriots, down 21-3 at halftime, realized that their plan wasn't going according to plan. So the 2 weeks of preparation that we just had goes out the window and we do something different. Falcons come out and they score again. Now the Patriots are down 28-3. But the game plan had been changed. Patriots go back and they win the game. When things aren't going according to plan, do something different. Don't get stuck wondering why things aren't going the way you wanted them to go. Move on to the next thing. The example I was going to say about that Dr. Jill gives is that they have hurricane cruises. Anybody ever been on one of those hurricane cruises? So it's during hurricane season. But what happens is they give you an itinerary, but if there's bad weather, they go someplace differently. But those cruises are like half price because they're going to change according to so basically you don't know where the hell you're going to end up. Right? Yeah. But because basically you run away from the hurricane. So whatever way the hurricane, you're going away from it. And it's perfect. I mean, it makes sense, and it's half price. Nobody's ever, they've never lost a boat because of a hurricane. They know what they're doing. Unlike that pilot on American Airlines. Yeah, what if the captain of the boat was like, yeah, we're going to get as close to the hurricane as we can so you can get a good look at it. And then we're going to turn around and come back. Let's not do that. So that's BioCode 5. When things aren't going according to plan, do something differently. All right, so I've just given you guys the condensed version. The longer version is not much longer. It takes about 2 hours to implement. Like I said, Dr. Jill, the inventor, wanted to keep this real simple. This right here has changed my life from a stress standpoint. 5 simple tools that you have to practice. You have to talk yourself off the ledge, so to speak, when you're losing it. You've been emotionally hijacked. Why am I upset? You have to ask yourself that. Why am I upset? Because if you don't know why you're upset, how are you going to not be upset? But then when you break it down, I did it yesterday in my head, and Lori thought I was talking to her. Right? You got to have that conversation with the 2 voices in your head. Right? I'm on the plane. All right. Yes, Dorsey, that sounds like a shitty idea from the captain. It does. Right? What can you do about it? Nothing. All right, so why are you upset? I don't know. I'm tired. I want to go back to the hotel and go to sleep. All right, we'll try to close your eyes now. All right, take a deep breath. All right. 5 minutes later. Why isn't this plane moving? Dorsey, you're doing it again. You can't control it. Chill out. All right. So that's kind of how it works. And what I always say too is, you get to think about whatever it is you want to think about. The one thing you can control is your thoughts. Right? So why don't you think about things that you would like to think about all day? Instead of trying to fix people that you can't fix, fix yourself. How can you be happy? How can you put those 2 voices in your head on the same page? Because that's when you excel. That's when your life takes off. So you conquer yourself first, you conquer the world. Conquer yourself, then you conquer the world. Well, how do you do that? It takes time. It takes practice. You're human. Allow yourselves to be human. We all make mistakes. Right? Mistakes are probably our greatest teachers. Allow yourself to be perfectly imperfect. I am perfectly imperfect. Perfectly. And I embrace it. Right? So now when we have problems, you go, okay, I don't have problems anymore. I have opportunities for growth. How do I fix this problem from the strongest place I can possibly be? Right? If a camper comes up to your owner's cabin and they're banging on the door and they got a problem, that's a BioCode moment. Can you take a deep breath? When that person starts yelling at you, can you not take it personally? Can you find out what they're really asking you for? and move forward. Because you don't want to argue with your customers, right? So you have to listen. What are they really asking for? Right? But like I said, the goal too, it's all about inner peace. It's all about your peace of mind. You know, we talked about forgiveness a little bit. Forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for yourself. Right? We hold on to these grudges and these resentments, and it's like you drinking the poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It doesn't work like that. You're the poison, and it's going into your body because it all happens up here. Right? We hold these grudges up here, nowhere else. Let them go. Forgive people and move on. Wish them well. Wish them some love. You know, good vibrations, right? It's all love. I wish you the best. I can't work with you anymore, but I still wish you well. You know, we're not going to hang out anymore, but that's fine. You know, they say people are in your lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. Right? Find out which one it is. Not everybody's supposed to be in your life forever. You know, and I talk to people, and I'm not trying to promote divorce or anything like that, but people who are in relationships and they're like, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. You do know what to do. You do. I'm not saying you want to be happy or you want to be miserable because somebody says you can't get divorced or because something in your mind says I shouldn't be divorced. Like I said, we were taught what to believe or what to think, but not how to think. Most of us don't think for ourselves. We go by whatever society says, right? What's on the news or what's in social media. We don't think for ourselves. Does it make sense to you? Is a question you have to ask, right? Lori, how much time do I have? Is it an hour?
Yeah, you have about half an hour.
Okay, all right, yeah. Say that again. The 3 steps.
First one was awareness and finding out how stressed you are. What were the other two?
Adjust and then action. And adjust is basically having that conversation in your head.
And how many times more do you have to have that conversation in your head before it sticks?
Yeah. I mean, it just, you know what happens? It goes away and then it comes back.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like I expect in my mind, if I'm patient for 10 more minutes, that should be enough.
Yeah.
And then I'm ready to go. Right? But then it goes to expecting something that I have no control over. You know? But I had to, and it's, one of the founders she's been in it for 7 years. And her daughter just recently got married. And her husband is in the Navy, so they moved to San Diego. And he was doing a diving something. And the water was not as deep as he thought it was. So he hit his head as soon as he fell in and he broke his neck. So, right, could you imagine the stuff that, you know, they weren't sure. First, they weren't sure if he was going to live. Then they wasn't sure if all of his limbs were going to work. You know, it was an ordeal. So she's like, okay. She hops on a plane. She goes to see her daughter the next day to try to help her out, you know, comfort her. She just got married. She comes in the house. She said she didn't hear anything, you know, so she walked around a little bit. She went upstairs, and her daughter was on the floor in a fetal position crying. So she just flew across the country from Atlanta in a night's notice to comfort her daughter. And she reaches down to touch her daughter, and her daughter looks at her and says, "Don't touch me." She said it broke her heart completely. It just shattered. Like, she didn't know who her daughter was. It's like a different person. Like, she just hated her guts. So she goes down and calls the founder of the BioCodes. And she's like, "What do I do?" She's like, and she's crying hysterically. And I love Dr. Jill. Dr. Jill goes, "Get your shit together." It's BioCode 3. She's sad. there's nothing you're going to accomplish. You can't talk to her. Just sit there quietly, and she'll come around. And that's exactly what happened. After about 30 minutes, she was like, Mom, I'm sorry. I'm in a bad place right now mentally. You know? But it works in a lot of different situations. But you have to be aware, because in that moment, she was emotionally hijacked, and she's 7 years in. The difference is going to be, you're going to be able to pull yourself out of that funk a lot faster than you would have in the past. Right? Because if you're in a relationship or you're married, the other person can say something to you that you don't like, and you can walk around the house for a week without talking to each other. Right? Or is that just my relationships? It's just mine? Okay, all right. Right. You got a question?
Well, at the ranch, we have a saying, because sometimes, the bad voice in your head just has to explode and release a little sense of cigarette to say something. And then the saying is, don't judge me, I'm having a moment. And that's our out. That kind of takes the pressure out of everything, and you get that whole having a moment, yeah.
Yeah.
My problem is I like to live in that moment for like 12 to 13 years.
Yeah, you got to learn to let it go, man. You know, another great BioCoding moment for me was my daughter plays tennis, and she's played since she was like 9, and I had dreams of her being the next Serena Williams. She has all the ability in the world, but she doesn't love it. Right? As a football player growing up and a basketball player, I played as much as I could because I loved to play. Like, my punishment was I couldn't play football or basketball, right? And then I thought about it because my relationship with my daughter was kind of going left. I'm like, listen, tennis is like real serious. I don't know if you guys know, but like in Atlanta, like 9, 10-year-olds are homeschooled so they can play tennis all day. So my daughter's like 14, and she gets like the doors blown off by an 11-year-old. 6-0, because this 11-year-old plays tennis 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and my daughter plays for 2.5 hours a day, 2 days a week. So I had that conversation. I know you're upset because you just got destroyed by an 11-year-old, but if you want to compete at that level, it's going to take more. You got to play more. It's not rocket science. It's the same thing here. It's not rocket science. The more you apply it, the stronger you become behaviorally. You have to play more in order to get better. That caused an issue, and then I thought about it. After I started BioCoding, I'm trying to control her, right? I'm trying to control her life. She's never asked me to go play tennis. She's never said, Dad, let's go hit some balls, or can you come, let me work on my serve. So I'm like, she doesn't love it. She might have been doing it for me, which made me, the guilt was like, I was like, oh. I started a speed and agility company based on my daughter playing tennis, so I could train her, and it caused a lot of problems. And once I learned in BioCodes, I'm like, you know what, I'm trying to control my daughter. And I stepped back and I was like, you know what, I had a conversation with her, I apologized to her. And I was like, tell me what it is you love to do, and I got your back 100%. But I'm not gonna force you to do anything tennis anymore. And she still plays varsity. She made the varsity tennis team as a freshman, and she still plays. As a matter of fact, they're in Tennessee right now at a tournament. She enjoys it, but she doesn't love it. But our relationship is so much better because it's like, I'm not like, did you hit balls today? When are you going to work out? Could you call your coach? There's no more of that. There's no more badgering, and our relationship has become so much more loving and supportive. But it was all me. Trying to control other people. So it even pertains to your family. And your biggest gym, as Lori can attest to, are going to be the people who are closest to you. Because it's easier to dismiss people who you don't deal with all the time. right? Like one of y'all can piss me off, and I'm like, I don't have to see them again for shit, maybe never. So you get over it faster, right? But if it's your kid or your mom or your, somebody close to you, somebody you have to spend time with, those are going to be that's what we call your toughest gym. Those are going to be your hardest workouts. People who are closest to you, people you know and people you love. I always said, my kid's mom's going to have me looking like the Incredible Hulk. She works me out. Well, she used to work me out. I'm much stronger now because I just accepted who she is. It goes back to the expectation versus observation. Maya Angelou says, when people show you who they are, believe them. When people show you who they are, believe them. Right? Most people have shown you how they're going to respond in certain situations. We all have that one friend who comes over and he gets drunk as shit, and then he's knocking over stuff, and he's just belligerent, you know what I'm saying? Or in my case, I used to have that friend because it's like, you can't come over here again. I'm not putting up with this shit, right? So it's easier with people you don't know, but the people who you know are going to be your toughest gems. And that's okay. Yeah.
How did you get into all this?
So the speed and agility company that I based around my daughter being the next Serena Williams that I formed, I was training a pro lacrosse player named Scott Ratliff, and I always give my players, well, I don't have the company anymore. I just let it go. Once I was like, it was based on my daughter, and when I realized she wasn't going to do it, I was like, I'm not doing it. But he was like, you and my mom talk a lot alike. So I always give him motivational speeches. I'm a firm believer that if you can convince yourself up here to do something, your body's going to follow. We used to have the craziest workouts back in Atlanta in the summer, like during the off season. And it was just like, we'd have like other NFL guys come over and go like you guys are crazy. Like this is too much. And our response would be, you're in the NFL. You've been working for this job for your whole life. Why wouldn't you train like you never trained before every year until you're not playing anymore? But what happens is a lot of guys, they get the dream, and then they stop working. The average career in the NFL is under 3 years. It's like 2.7 years, the average career. So for every guy that you know, for every Aaron Rodgers, there's 300 guys whose names you'll never hear of or never remember. That's how it works. What was that? Right, exactly. Yeah. So based on that, I'm like, I hired a world-renowned track coach. We had 2-hour track workouts. I lifted 5 times a week. But I was like, hey man, this is where I wanted to be. I've worked my whole life to get here, so I'm not going to get here and squander it. So, yeah. Did I answer your question? What was the question again? So, Scott, no, I often get sidetracked. I go off into different stories. He said, you and my mom should talk. She does leadership development. And I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, all right, I'll meet with her. But just out of respect for him, because I have the traditional leadership development, and we've actually talked about rebranding, and we're in the process of doing this now, toward more life development. We came in the leadership development door because we've taught like CEOs of major companies. We work with the Packers, Mark Murphy's staff, Chick-fil-A in Atlanta, the Federal Reserve Bank. So some pretty heavy hitters, And what it does is, in corporations, it changes the whole environment. But anyway, I say that to say, we had the meeting, and I was like, whoa, that's not what I thought it was going to be at all. And then when I started to practice it, probably about almost 6 months in, I'm like, man, that weight started to lift. And then the more I practiced it, and what I told Lori too is that when you teach other people this stuff, it sticks better. Right? I taught my family. I've probably given away $500,000 worth of this stuff to my family and friends, just because I want them to not stress. And like you, well, I don't know you, so I'm not going to say that. My family is highly dysfunctional. I have a big family. My mom had 11 brothers and sisters. My dad had 7. So I got aunts, uncles, and I got cousins. I don't know all my cousins' babies' names. There's like 75 of us in Syracuse. Very big, very dysfunctional. I went to Syracuse a few months ago, and I got the family together so we can have a BioCode session. I want to teach you guys what the BioCode, because stress kills you. It literally kills you. It causes so many different illnesses, and it starts to layer, and then like piece by piece, your life starts to like kind of fall apart. You know what I mean? What was I saying before that? I lost track again. So we're having this meeting. First, I tell him what it is, and one of my aunts just starts bawling, crying. She's like boo-hooing hysterically. She's like, I stress so much. She has all these physical ailments. She's always in the hospital, but it's all stress. She's like the most stressful aunt that I have. 45 minutes later, we're talking about redirecting and not making the other person wrong, keeping the focus on yourself and not the other person, when an argument broke out. That's why I love my family, man. I was like, how can we get into an argument about a meeting about de-stressing? How does the fight start in that? How does that work? But that's why I thought they needed it. Anyway, so I got involved with her. Like I said, I thought BioCode 4 was for every coach and every player. So actually, the guy that I trained, my lacrosse guy, he and I head the sports department of Empower House. And then Dr. Jill Kahn and Jill Ratliff run the corporate side, so to speak. Dr. Jill, the inventor of this, she has a book called The Gift of Taking, which is really good, really counterintuitive, because we've been taught our whole lives to give, right? It's better to give than to receive. But the premise of her book is, if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take care of anybody, right? Take care of yourself first. The better you are, the better you'll be able to help other people. It's kind of like my NFL career. I did the best that I could, and it allowed me to help a lot of other people, especially in my family. All right. 11 years. Yeah. No dumb questions.
How do you get someone else on board without offering unsolicited advice so you guys can all be on the same page?
Ask them if they're open to advice. If you're, just say, you know what, if you're open to some advice, I know some tools that may help you stress out a little less.
Okay, so when you're like actually teaching this, are you teaching specific tools and or exercises that go with it?
Yeah. So like I said, there's 3 steps, and then there's a section on what keeps you stuck. And then there's a metaphor also that goes along with it. And give me the question again.
Well, I was just, okay, so without soliciting, or with giving advice unsolicited, I'm just saying, there's like, like I can lower my blood pressure or calm myself down by doing the 4-6 breathing. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you
Yeah.
hold for 2, and then you breathe out for 6 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You do that for 5 minutes, you will lower your blood pressure or calm yourself down. But you have to commit to it for 5 minutes, and that's really hard to do when you're
Yeah.
upset and anxious and breathing shallowly. So I didn't know if there was like actionable.
Yeah, and so yes, I give a lot more examples. Damn, I had an answer to what you just said. No, give me the question, the last part of the question again.
Are there?
All right, I got it now. All right, I got it. There's an awareness scale. All right, this is the really condensed version. There's an awareness scale that we talk about. There are 3 moments to catch your weaknesses. The biggest thing is the awareness part of it. All right, you have to be aware of when you're stressed. Most of us, we know because we don't have an answer to our stress, we don't acknowledge it, right? So we just keep on moving. The awareness scale, you have 3 opportunities to catch your stress: before, during, or after a situation. So before meaning, you know you're going into a situation where you're going to have to biocode. So you get your mind right. You know, we talk about that all the time, you know, especially when we go do some of these events, right? Get your mind right. So you know before going in that you may have some biocode moments. You might find out during an argument that you just got emotionally hijacked. You can be right in the middle of it. You might be like, he got me. Damn, he got me. You get sucked into the fire, so to speak, right? You get drawn into the storm. And then there's afterwards. Afterwards, you go, shit, that was a biocode moment, and I missed it. But guess what? There's another one coming. You know why? Because shit happens. And it keeps happening because it's always happened. It goes back to the expectation versus observation, right? So when somebody complains about something happening all the time, you know it's going to happen all the time. What are you complaining about? Right? But sometimes afterwards you catch it too, and you go, But you're going to have more opportunities because that's what life is, right? It's challenge after challenge. But it's weird. Once you overcome some challenges, like you kind of transcend. What you do is you transcend the thinking that got you stressed in the first place, right? My cousin calls it stinking thinking, right? You think a certain way. A lot of it goes back to the expectation or the judgment. You know what? The Packers lost. Accept it and move on. They're going to play again next Sunday, right? Or they have a bye, right? Guys can't have a break? Guys can't have a break? Don't you like days off of school? Questions? Any more questions? Yeah. We have a program down to middle school kids where we teach them more simplified. Actually, it's pretty much what I taught you today is what we teach these guys. But the examples are obviously they're different. You know, we have high school examples. You know, what things that go on in high school, or you know, what kids go through. Actually, I talked to a group yesterday. The younger kids, they're like 10 and under. I think they don't get it. It's flying over their head left and right. But there were some middle school kids who really got it. And there was one 15-year-old girl who stayed after, and she had a bawling session. And we talked about something that she was going through. You know, but it's weird because I talked to that group for 30 minutes? Not even 30 minutes? And something about her, I said thanks, and everybody got up and left, and she came back, and she was just like, and she just poured it out. And her story was heart-wrenching. It really was. But she understood. I just gave him, I probably spent 2 minutes on each of those things. You know, and so the other guy who runs the sports department, the guy, the lacrosse player, Scott Ratliff, he teaches high school lacrosse, so he's been taking his players and stuff through it. And he just started he's kind of doing the same thing I'm going to do with you guys at the campsites with the workshops. He's doing it at different schools. But he's gotten letters from parents like, I don't even know whose kid this is. Like, what'd you do with my kid? Like, I love the new kid, but like, how did you do that? Like, what is happening to this kid? Because it's real easy to understand and it makes sense. Like I said, it's not hocus pocus. There's no magic. There's no secret recipe or anything like that. You have to work. just like you would in the gym, to get stronger. And it actually works. So with that being said, middle school up right now. We haven't simplified it. And I'm sure we'll get there eventually because it's just, it really, I can't stress enough how life-changing this has been for me. I really can't. And just like, and even now, like my aunt's in Syracuse now, and she lives in Atlanta. And she texts me, and she's like, lots of BioCode moments up here. Lots. Because she's home with her family, with her sisters. You know, she's got 11 sisters and brothers. And like I said, the people closest to you are the ones who are going to wear you out. But at the end, just like a regular workout, toward the end of your workout, you feel weak, right? Like you can't lift any more weights, or maybe you can't run any further. But then you rest up, and the next time you go work out, you're stronger, right? This is the same thing here. All those situations that you encounter that you used to view as problems are not problems anymore. They're instruments for growth. They're here to show you where you're weak and where you need to get stronger. Because where you're stronger, when you know how to deal with things more effectively, you're not going to stress. Right? You're just not going to stress. If you just do BioCode 3 and don't problem solve when emotions are elevated or depressed, that'll save you a ton of headaches right there. My favorite BioCode is BioCode 2, the workout, the inner one. Because I think that's the one where we all have doubt. What is it? We all have doubt. We all have fear. We all have worry. Worry is a big one too, right? The opposite of worry is trust. I talked about buying my daughter a car yesterday. She's 17, got her first car. And as a parent, you worry, right? And then you make up the story in your head, right? I call, she doesn't answer the phone. Oh my God. She's on the side of the road somewhere and the car is flipped over and, somebody's digging in her pockets. You make up shit in your head. And you make up the worst case scenario. Right? And instead of doing that, you catch the story in your head, you stop it. You realize you're making this story up. We're really good at making up stories in our head and believing them. You believe what you tell yourself. You believe whatever you tell yourself. And we can make up our imaginations are wonderful. Wonderful. And most of it never even happens. Most of the stuff we worry about never happens. So in those moments, you practice trust. Practice trust.
So say you come into the campground and you do a workshop on this. Does it end there, or is it, or is there like coaching, okay, well,
Yeah.
I've tried every one of these and I'm still going to go kill somebody?
Yeah. So the answer is yes. And the workshop is really, I teach you the biocodes in 2 hours. And our plan is to maybe either come back later that night or the next day, probably later that night by the campfire. So it has like a camp theme. And then what will happen is you'll give me one of your problems. And I'll say, how would you biocode that? So you as a group would which biocode is this? Biocode 1, 2, 3? Sometimes it's 1, 2, 4, and 5. Sometimes it's 2, 3, and 4. Every situation varies. So because I don't live in Wisconsin, if we did follow-ups, even if you don't do them through me, and I've suggested this, and I don't know why you guys didn't do it, I should chastise you for that and point my finger at you. Get together as a group and do it yourselves. Because the more you practice, the stronger you become. And then you realize other people are also having issues, because we all have issues. It's kind of like a group therapy session. Or the alternative is we get on a conference call with me and we just talk about it for an hour. So there's workshops and there's workshops with follow-ups. Most of the corporate stuff we do, they're follow-ups because it's just, it really is, the follow-ups make a huge difference, because what happens is you have the motivational speech effect. And here's how we categorize that. It's like, so imagine you go, I'll talk about church because Atlanta's the Bible, Georgia's the Bible Belt, where you go in and you hear a great sermon, everybody's inspired and motivated, and then you go out in the parking lot, somebody cuts you off, and you're like, hey. Right? So we call that the helium balloon, but you have a pen and you pop it. The first sign of resistance or struggle, that motivation is popped, right? Or you're emotionally hijacked. What we call,
I know a lot of the campgrounds have talked to me about, we'd like to have Dorsey come train our people, but, we only have 2 people, or we only have 4 people, or whatever. So maybe one of the things we should do is, if Dorsey's gonna be here until about
2,
2:30.
yeah, 2:30, yeah.
Somewhere in there. So if you're interested in having them come to the campground, or taking some of your people somewhere else, just sign up, and then that way maybe Waco can kind of coordinate something for you, where we say, well, do it in this spot, and you can bring so many people, or if you don't have enough people for him to necessarily come to you.
Yeah, that's what we can do, because there's a 15-person minimum. So if you don't have that many people at your campsite, you can just join up with another one. We plan on doing maybe like a 2-week tour in the summertime, somewhere in June and July. So if you don't have enough people at your camp, maybe 2 camps can combine. And then we have a conference call number for the follow-ups. So if anybody wants the follow-ups, like I said, they're highly recommended. It's a little more pricey, but you can also just do it amongst yourselves. And I'm not here, and I tell you that because I really think this will change your life. And I don't want to have to hold your hand through it the whole time anyway. Like I told Laura yesterday, at some point I want to kick you out of the nest. And if you fall head first, then you'll get up and shake it off. But I'm not here to hold you. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to give you the tools so you can fix yourself. All right? That's why when I say this is real. Right? I'm not trying. It's not a money grab for me. I can help people. It's helped me. Obviously, it costs. But this is life changing, and it has been for me. So I say that to say, you guys can do it yourself. You don't need me, because all you do is you sit down and go, give me an issue, just random issue, just whatever. All right, somebody else give me one. Somebody just give me just a random issue. Like, what's something that stresses you out? Your work partner. What's wrong with your work partner? What's the problem? He expects you to do all the work and reap the benefits. Well, how do we biocode that? Which biocode do we start with? Biocode 1, you. Take the focus off the other person. Bring it back to yourself, regardless of who's right or wrong. Bring the focus back to you. That's the first thing. So what's the next biocode we use? 4? Why? Right. 4, you have to learn how to communicate better. Right? Because there's a disconnect. Right? So somebody's not on the same page. Either you need to be more clear about what you want, or you need to ask them what they need from you. Right? What's another biocode? What other biocode we use here? Number 5. Yeah. So whatever method you're using right now to communicate with this person is not working. So you got to do something different. Right? And then how about biocode 2? You have a story in your head. The story in your head is they expect you to do all the work. Right? So I guess there's an expectation there from their part. Right? And you expect them to not expect you to do all the work.
We expect them to say when we have to do it, we need all of it, not this part of it.
What have you observed?
When he says that, he sits down and doesn't do anything.
Okay. So as opposed to expecting him to do something that he's never done, right? It goes back to letting my friend's mom, letting people cut in front of him, right? You've observed this is how this person operates, right? And one of the things too, in the communication code, when we get a little deeper into it, is that when you have conversations with people, and sometimes tough conversations, you have to meet people where they are, right? Like I was talking to you guys about my friend. He was so surprised at how patient I was with my 4-year-old. But he's 4 years old, so I'm going to meet him where he is, right? He thinks he's the Incredible Hulk, and he loves Hot Wheels, right? And he still pees the bed sometimes. So I meet him where he is, right? And I explained to my friend, how much can a 4-year-old do wrong? He's learning. He's going to make mistakes. You know, he's going to bump his head. He's going to scrape his knee. He's going to scrape his elbow. You know, that's how we learn. As young men, you know, I'm sure even some of you women, you know, we fall and we get up. That's life. We learn. But I'm like, I'm not going to get, he may throw a temper tantrum. That's what 4-year-olds do. So now I get mad, and I'm screaming at a 4-year-old. Now he's still having a fit. Right now we got an adult and a 4-year-old having a fit. Who's that going to help? Stress levels, right? His stress level and my stress level. And now, you know, if he has one of those fits, it's like, hey, buddy, hey, whenever you're done, come over here and talk to me. All right? You cool? All right. And you walk away, and the crying almost stops immediately. And they come over, and they like, you know, it's like, all right, cool, let's do it. You're 4. You have to meet people where they are. I have an Uncle Jeff. Something happened with, like, somebody slipped a Mickey in my Uncle Jeff's drink like years ago. And he's been like mentally disturbed, so to speak. Love my Uncle Jeff to death. Love him to death. Every time I see him, he goes, Dorsey Levens. And he'll go. So when I have a conversation with my Uncle Jeff, it's not the same conversation I have with Lori. Right? Because you got to meet people where they are. I can't expect my Uncle Jeff to act normal, whatever that is. Because that's not who he is. You have to meet people where they are. If you have I'm sure you guys have campers, and you know that this certain family, they're going to act a certain way, and it's going to get on your nerves. Right? And I don't even own a campsite, and I'm almost positive that's an issue. Don't expect them to come and act differently than they have the last 3 years. People do change. Yes, they do. But not always. Right? So instead of expecting people to change, meet them where they are and deal with them from that perspective. So your biocode, that's what we would do, right? What's the problem? How do we biocode? So you can just sit at a table and just go around, right? You give me an issue, and then you guys biocode it. He gives you an issue, and then you don't need me here to do it. But in order to be successful, you have to do the work. You just have to. And the more you do it, the more it'll be in your mind, and the more you'll practice it. That time?
That is time.
All right. Well, thank you all. Yes. Even though you don't have the full one, that small thing that you have right there, that'll be a good start. You know, I don't know if you guys are going to invite me back or not, but that right there will just, it'll get you on your way. It really will. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys.